So thanks everyone for being here today. My name is Dermali Flores. I'm the MEC president and also the local president for Miami. With me today is the rest of the team for negotiations, or part of the team for negotiations. I will ask them to introduce themselves and then we'll start the call. Thank you. Armando?
Hi, everybody. Armando Ramos, negotiation team member, and also the Miami Council 59 vice president. I've been doing union work. I'm with the company for 32 years. I've been in negotiations. Excuse me, sorry. I've been with doing union work since 1995, which when I started the organization, so it was about 29, 30. My math is not good. So, and this will be my fourth or fifth negotiations where I've been as a full negotiation member or as a guest for other negotiations in the past.
Thank you, Shane.
Hello, I'm Shane Spillman, been flying for 25 years. I'm currently the LAC 51 president of Chicago and Phoenix and a member of the negotiating team. I have been doing union work for about 20 years and I'm on my fifth term as an elected officer of LAC 51.
Thank you, Abby.
Hi, darlings. Sorry, I'm a little sick today, but my name's Abby. I'm the MEC Mobilization Chair. I've only been at the company for a year, but I've been doing union work for a couple of years now. My experience is mostly in getting places unionized, and I'm really excited to be the Mobilization Chair.
Thank you. We have elected a fourth person. He will be joining us soon. So after losing the first person for the team that we elected back in May, then we lost the person that we chose from the people that applied. And the MEC got together a couple days earlier this week from the people that were interviewed for the position. We have selected Giancarlo Meridieri, who was based in Phoenix, to be the third person on the fourth person on the negotiations committee. So he will be joining us later on the call, and he will be the person that will join us during negotiations. We will send an official notification to all the members later today. Thank you. Without further ado, I'm going to share on the screen. Please let me know if you can see the presentation. I'm doing this on the iPad. It's kind of complicated. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So go ahead, Armando.
You guys move to the next slide. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so
Perfect.
everybody, history of our negotiations. It's a little long, but we want to make sure that people understand how do we get to where we are today. Trying to make my screen smaller and make this one, make the Zoom call smaller so I can see my screen where I have my notes. All right, so Section 6 negotiations. Section 6 is when what we're at today, which it's the normal, all sections open negotiations, where our contract becomes amendable, and we sit with the company and have open dialogue of the whole contract, all sections. Section 6 negotiations started around the fall season of 2009. We had many great improvements to add to add it to what was the 2005 contract. Remind you that in 2005 contract, it was a post 9/11 contract. For example, international per diem override raises. We had like $20 to include Mexico overnights. We had sick bank payouts for flight attendants with less than 300 hours. Among other improvements, we had three sections. We had 3 sections to go to finalize the 2009 contract until company declared bankruptcy in November 2011. When bankruptcy 2011 happened, well, this is where the 2012 contract comes in. When the company declared bankruptcy, what bankruptcy does is the companies are looking at your current contract, which, remind you, it was our 2009 contract that we were trying to, excuse me, 2005 contract where we're trying to get improvements on with the 2009 negotiations. So what that means is they're going to look at the 2005 contract, what we have in place today without any of the improvements that we got during negotiations. And then they'll start asking for givebacks. That's how that works, unfortunately. And this is to all union groups. This is what they do to all union groups. So all the improvements that we achieved during the regular negotiations for the 2009 contract were all tossed out the window. When we first asked the company what was the amount of money the company was to ask us to seek yearly under concessions, we were told less than $2 million a year. When the date came for all the unions to meet with American Airlines, American Eagle, and the AMR group, which today is AAG, we were shocked with the new out of the blue pocket number of $9 million a year from our contract, from our 2005 contract. We fought hard to retain as much as we could, but we knew that unfortunately, we had to seek $9 million out of that contract a year for the next 4 or 5 years. We fought with the negotiation and to make sure we had no monetary value removed, which in other words, we were trying to make sure your pay scale was not touched, which was the first place the company was coming to. Company wanted all the Me Too's that we have with the pilots in our current contract. Plus, back then we used to have 2% POs to 1%. Because of the concession. The company wanted to get rid of the whole thing. We achieved at least just to keep 1% of the POs. We were not budging, and we stood strong, and we did not give away those Me Too's. We did lose one, which was the pilot's rest rules, but we got them in writing what they had in our current contract. After months away from home, literally 6 months span, we finalized an 8-year 2012 bankruptcy contract. We were not happy, but we had to achieve. But we were not happy with it. But we did achieve pay raises, believe it or not, during the bankruptcy, which is very impossible in the norm. And we added a midterm negotiations in 4 years. Midterm means that we will open the book again in 4 years after the date of 2012 to go in and get improvement on certain sections. In 2015, by 2015, the company had closed 5 or 7 bases in this order: Boston, then LA, then San Juan, then Miami, then New York, JFK, LaGuardia. We had two major grievances that we knew that we had a good chance of winning if presented in front of an arbitrator, which were the new flying with no flying law, bankruptcy concession agreement. Bankruptcy concession agreement. When AMR or AAG today declared bankruptcy, all unions, American Eagle, AA-ENVOY, had to sign a bankruptcy side letter, which states no union group will start at concessions from their current contract until all other union groups started concessions. Well, months after we already started PBS, which was a concession due to we have paper bidding, same as the pilots today, we filed a grievance when we found out the pilots were not going to have PBS, and with no clue how long or how many years they would have to wait to start their process. In the beginning of 2015, the company offered the pilots 4 commuter hotels. Why? Because when the company closed all bases, mentioned earlier, you now made almost 90% of your crew members commuters. Flights were being canceled left and right because new crew members could not get to work. When we heard about these commuter hotels, of course, we asked the company why the pilots and not the flight attendants. They responded, "You have midterm negotiations next year. We could talk then." So, us, the union, we pushed for the 2 grievances mentioned above to be heard with an arbitrator as soon as possible. We pushed it to the top of our list in the grievances. A few months later, the company responded to us regarding those 2 grievances. How could we settle these grievances without going to an arbitration? Why? They approached us because they knew that we had the upper hand, and then they were like almost certain they were going to lose these grievances. We asked for the same number of hotel commuters as the pilots. We asked for 100% parking reimbursement for the flights that were displaced from the original base. For example, I live in San Juan, and when San Juan was closed, I ended up going to Dallas. Parking in San Juan is over $108. In Dallas, it was only $30. The company will only reimburse me the $30, which was what they were reimbursing the flight attendants in Dallas. So we got to, in that settlement, we got the company to reimburse all those flight attendants that were displaced out of those bases that was closed, to get 100% of their parking fee. You would pay, and they will reimburse you the whole amount. We got flight attendants in Dallas that lived more than 50 miles away from the Dallas airport hotels for training. Back then, if you were Dallas based, no matter where you lived, more than 50 miles or even closer, you would have to go back and forth every day to the training center if training was more than 1 day. So we achieved to get the Dallas flight attendants training hotels, among other improvements that we achieved back then. Now moving on to 2016, the midterm negotiations. We had to, in the midterm negotiations, you had to seek a certain amount of issues that you wanted improved in the contract. It was about 6 to 10 items. Shane, correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember the number on my hand, but my notes are in Dallas.
I think it was 5. We could bring 5 each. For some reason, that number is sticking in my head.
I remember 5 as well.
Yeah.
Apologies. It was 5 us, 5 the company, to make a total of 10. Up to 10 if the company wanted to bring up 5 sections.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, where was that? Apologies. The company could seek the same amount of items as well, of course, and they were seeking to eliminate the 1% PO that we achieved in the 2012 contract, bankruptcy contract. So from 100% POs that we had back in 2009, 2005, down to 2%, down to 1%. Well, make a long story short, on 2016 contract, we ended up with pay raises all steps of the pay scale, a higher per diem, airport standby credit, and other improvements. Yes, Shane, you wanted to mention something? Did I miss something?
No, I didn't have anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Okay, which brings us today to our 2021 contract. We started these negotiations pre-pandemic. So up to now, I want to see if you guys hear this clearly. The 2005 contract was the 9/11, post 9/11. So we didn't have a clean contract back then. The 2009 company declares bankruptcy. Well, now we're on 2012 bankruptcy contract. Because the 2009 goes out the window and 2012 starts the new round of negotiations under Section 6. Excuse me, under bankruptcy. Then came the midterms, which is also just still part of bankruptcy. 2021 or 2020 is when we started to negotiate. Everything was started going well, but as you all know, COVID. So now we have another not clean negotiations. We had a few non-monetary improvements achieved in the first sections of January and February. Then in March of 2020, I remembered I picked up an OT trip in Dallas prior to our negotiation sessions that month. I was DFW based back then. I was on a turn when the former MEC president called me and asked me, "Is there a way you can go get home tonight?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Good, take the flight home, get out of Dallas. Who knows how long I was going to be stuck in Dallas and away from home." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He informed me that the next day, American Airlines was to cancel hundreds of flights due to the COVID outbreak and government requirements. After a few months, I went back home. After a few months waiting and everything on hold, the union and the company decided to continue negotiations through Zoom. It worked okay, but mind you all, our negotiation notes, folders, binders were all back in the DFW office, which we could not have access to because there was no flights, or there was the issue of having COVID. You did not get contaminated or infected. We had to dig into old emails, and our staff negotiator back then kept some files in our home, which helped a lot. At the end of the 2020, we saw that not much was getting done or was going to happen unless we have our files. And then the outbreak kept delaying us to meet in person. The union hands were tied as to make any more movement with the company. So we sent out a survey with 3 options to the members. First option was continue negotiations as normal, see how far we can succeed. Number 2, stop negotiations, take a 2-year gap, wait to see what happens with the COVID outbreak, and start negotiations again in 2 years if need be. Or 3, take what we achieved to date and go directly to the pay issues and get a TA. The turnout of the survey was very poor, but the majority that voted requested option 3. To take what we had, get a pay raise, get pay some per diem, whatnot, and let's get this done. Your negotiation team followed the members' request and approached the company about this option. The company, after a little hesitation, agreed. A few months and almost 20 passes back and forth later of TAs, passes of back and forth of proposals, a TA was achieved, which included pay raises each year, beginning of the day of the signing, company matches with the 401k, signing bonuses, to name a few, and higher per diem. The vote for the TA had a very poor turnout. From 1,499 members in good standing and eligible to vote, only 629 members voted. 376 voted yes for the TA, while 253 voted against. This is why the participation and involvement in these negotiations are so important, This is your contract, and your negotiation needs your support. Any questions, concerns? Or we can leave those to the end.
Yes, just take notes and then we'll take the questions at the end, Armando.
Well, I know it's a little long, and I'm reading, reading with the smaller screen because I also have to look at the slide. So, it's the history of what happened. A lot of people don't want to hear the history, but unfortunately, the reason we have a contract today, the way it is today, is there's always a reason things just progress. Some things just stay in the contract because they work or they were never approached for a change. Members never did it or put it in their survey that we need to change this. This needs to be changed or whatnot. So that's how a lot of the sections or some side letters you might see in the contract are has so many years in, and you're like, why is this side letter so old in here? Because those some achievements or fixes that we need to do within the contract and for historical purposes as well. If the company ever decides to pull a fast one, if we want to say, we have our history to go back on and fight for what's ours. That's all I got.
Thank you, Armando. I appreciate that. So now Shane will go over how does the contract negotiations work, and this is basically standard rules of negotiations.
Jamala, can you make the slide presentation bigger on the
Yeah, I was just checking that everybody. I will.
Perfect.
I was just trying to have other people on the call because it rang that there was someone. So I will have to kind of go over that in a second. Go ahead.
I'm not seeing it.
You're not?
It's at midterm.
You guys can just change the slide, the money. It's just.
Oh, it did move back. I'm sorry. I apologize.
And then go up one.
There you
Right
go.
there. Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My section is how does negotiation work? And the first thing that is done in any negotiation process is that we choose the team. Our team, negotiating team, consists of the MEC president, our AFA staff negotiator, and the 3 elected negotiating team members, as well as our mobilization chair. The entire team will be trained at AFA International Headquarters next month, and we will be trained on the fundamentals of negotiation and the Railway Labor Act. During the training, we will be fine-tuning our survey along with our staff negotiator and the AFA International Financial Analyst. Next screen, please. Surveys. After we fine-tune those surveys, this is where the members are able to make their voices heard. Your survey responses will help the committee to focus on your top priorities and assist in crafting our proposals that will be presented to management. The proposals are written documents that contain suggested changes to our existing contract. Working with our staff negotiator and guided by the survey responses, the committee will compile an initial proposals to give to management. Management may or may not have any opening proposals for AFA. And then at the table, as Armando mentioned, Section 6 negotiations. Both AFA and management sit across the table from each other. Written proposals are passed across the table to the other party. Usually there's some explanations and discussions about the proposals, and then the parties will caucus. Caucus means that each side will go to their separate meeting rooms to discuss privately what happened at the table what was in the proposal, and how to respond to the proposal. Typically, AFA and management meet once a month for about 3 to 4 days in a row. Sometimes these meetings can be more frequent if both parties agree to it. Progress on these sections or proposals of the sections depends on several factors, including sections of the contract that are being discussed, as well as the preparation each party puts into the session. Next slide, please. Order of proposals. Our contract is comprised of many sections, 36 to be exact, and we will be discussing all 36 of them in negotiations. The normal negotiation process starts out with sections that are non-economic, which means they don't cost the company any money. As negotiations progress, discussions focus on the money sections of the contract, such as Section 4, which is compensation, 5, expenses, and 8, scheduling. At this point is when the process typically starts to slow down. Next slide. The big question is, how long is this going to take? And the simple answer is, we don't know. Our best gauge of this is by watching other airlines that are currently in negotiation. Right now, PSA is in negotiations. So keep an eye on their negotiations. Not that we are negotiating what they're trying to negotiate, but as far as like the timeline and the tactics that their management are using, so we can be prepared for that. Management has told AFA, as they always do, that they hope we have a fast negotiations, and AFA could not agree more. And what simple thing you can do right now is to wear your AFA pins. All in, wear your pin. And I have to thank John Carlos for I hacked the majority of that from our previous negotiation section. So thank you. Co-author credit for JC, who is on the call right now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say since you mentioned him. JC, if you don't mind unmuting and introducing yourself as the newest member on the team to the flight attendants that are on the call, the members that are on the call, please.
Okay, no problem. Hey, everybody. My name is John Carlos Metigieri. I've been a flight attendant with Envoy for 25 years since I was 19 years old. I've spent the majority of my time in Chicago, but I've also been based in New York. I've also been based in Miami. I've also been based in Dallas, and I'm currently based in Phoenix. During the time that I was a AFA representative, I started as a government affairs committee representative and eventually moved in to dabble in other areas of the union's work, including grievance and PBS as well. I currently serve also as the primary member to the System Board of Adjustment or arbitration.
Thank you, John Carlos.
No problem.
I appreciate that. Let me go back to the presentation. I just was able to move to a bigger screen so I don't have to be moving back and forth. So with that said, Abby, go ahead. Let me move to the correct page so that you can start your portion of the presentation.
Hi, darling. So I'm just gonna go over a little bit of the timeline, what to expect, and how to get involved in the contract negotiations. I'll be the mobilization chair. That means that I'm responsible for making sure the information gets from the bargaining table to you. I'll also be responsible for making sure your concerns are heard and that you get involved and active in pushing for a better contract. So a little bit of the timeline. In October of this year, or next month, the negotiation team and I will get trained by International. After that, the mobilization reps will go into a little bit more later. We'll get trained at each base. And then probably late October or to early, maybe more early November, surveys will be released. Do you want to?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Spoilers. And then in January, we'll get the results of the surveys. We'll create the openers in January of 2026. Is when negotiations will start. That's when you'll get your red pins and lanyards. And then throughout negotiations, monthly, there'll be monthly negotiations and communications immediately following the negotiations. There'll be likely a strike vote, there'll be pickets, there'll be actions, there'll be pressure. I'll go into a little bit more of what we can do later. And then in question mark years, we'll get a TA. The MEC will vote on it, the negotiating team will vote on it, and then there'll be road shows, and then membership will get a chance to say whether they want the TA or not. If the TA is approved, then it'll be ratified and we'll get our money. It's not, some things kick in right away and some things take a longer time. You want to go to the next slide? So surveys, Shane touched on this a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to emphasize everyone will get a survey. They'll be sent over email likely. These will be the guiding light for negotiators. So they'll make decisions based on these surveys. We don't have an exact estimate, but just to inoculate, it may take a little long, maybe around 30 minutes. It'll include a variety of ways to respond. So some will be multiple choice, some will be ranking, some will be fill in the blank. So there'll certainly be an opportunity to say whatever you need to say in the survey. And it'll include different sections of the contract. We know everyone wants pay in your surveys, make sure you're highlighting other parts of the contract that you really want to see changed. You must be in good standing to take the survey. Please check this. I sent out 2 emails today, one to people who I saw were in bad standing, one to people I saw were in good standings. Sometimes you can go into your membership hub and see that, whoops, you just haven't been paying for a while. It's happened to me before and it can be a little scary, but there's payment plans to get sent to set up to make sure that you can participate in the negotiations. I'd certainly encourage everyone on the call today to talk to your friends, talk to the people you work with to make sure that everyone's in good standing, and the mobilization team will be out there making sure too and before in the next couple of months. I want to go to the next slide. All right, here are some examples of negotiations communications. Again, they'll be sent out every session. They'll be sent out through the email, through the AFA email. They'll be sent out on Facebook. There'll likely be videos that we post to Instagram and YouTube. They'll be everywhere you can find them. And the mobilization reps will also be responsible for making sure that everyone gets these communications. So I just wanted to give a little bit of an example of what you might see after a bargaining session. On your left, you'll see an example of the PSA of a PSA bargaining session. So we can't say word for word everything that happens. There's some legalities around that, but we can talk about what we won. We can talk about what concessions the company wants to take from us. So on the PSA side, you'll see that they were bargaining over reserve, that they got 13-hour wrap instead of 14-hour wraps, 10 months cap on standby, or they call ready to reserve. They got automatic check-in and out, which is great. So they talk a little bit about the sections that they're bargaining, when they're bargaining next. They talk about they told you to talk about insurance a little bit. And then on the other side, you'll see an example of a United communication. In this communication, they talk about what concessions the company wants to take from them. So they say that the company wants to institute PBS, institute minimum flying requirement for medical benefits, delete night pay, reduce reserve guarantee to 75. And certainly it might look like that also. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Cool. So now's the time for everyone to get involved in the presentation. The negotiators might have to help me out. I know we have a little less people on the call today. All right. So I used to have a seesaw, but I like the tug of war metaphor too. When we're at negotiations, people can type it in the chat. Who's on each side of the rope? So yeah, who's on each side of the rope if we were in a tug of war during negotiations? You can type it in the chat, or negotiators can call it out. If we were tug of war. Armando, you unmuted.
Yeah, I don't see anybody typing in the
There's
chat.
nobody in the chat.
That's fine. You guys can say it. Company versus the negotiation team. So it'll be the company versus us, right? Like, and not just the negotiation team. The negotiation team will be at the top of the rope, telling people when to pull. They'll be telling people when to, when to cool off and when to put as much pressure as possible. But it'll be the whole, all of us, all flight attendants, and then the company and management will be on the other side of negotiations, trying to make sure that we don't get our money and that we don't get our benefits and that we don't get the things that we need to in order to do our job effectively. So I know a lot of people like to talked a little bit about in the forums what they wanted on the contract. What in the chat, what is something that you're fighting for in negotiations? Why is it important that you're tugging on the rope as much as possible? Yeah, all flight attendants, exactly. Yeah, fighting for what we deserve, exactly. Thanks, Jeannie. So we got a couple more. You guys don't need anything? That's fine. I guess we can.
But come on.
More money. Yeah, exactly. Better quality of life. Boarding pay. Exactly. I want to stop doing so much work for
Free.
For free, exactly. In no other industry can you go to work, put on your uniform, be clocked in, be answering for no money. So I agree with boarding pay. I also agree with money. Like we'll be on YouTube forever, but I did almost get evicted a couple months ago, and it's personal, right? Like our lives are on fire a little bit because of how little money that we're making, and we'll be pulling that rope pretty hard. I know I will. More holidays, yeah, exactly. Duty pay, boarding pay for sure. Per diem increase, better health benefits and pay, absolutely. Why do you think the company's pulling on the rope? Probably their shareholders or retro pay, definitely. Probably their shareholders, maybe their second homes. They're certainly not getting evicted anytime soon. they they want to keep it all for their big rigs, exactly. Oh, duty rigs for why we're pulling. If we make more, then they make less. Yeah, exactly. So
that part.
Exactly. So yeah, I think I'd just like to highlight this to show that the negotiators, the union, and the flight attendants are all on the same side, and the company is on a different side as us during negotiations. Daily min guarantee for those lost days. Thanks, Jeannie. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, John. Okay, what do we have going for us going into negotiations? So what leverage do we have? I know, for example, American Airlines is a mainline that is, or American Airlines is a company that is majority regional flying, right? So they do that on purpose, right? We're the biggest regional, right? Like they do that on purpose so that they can split up the companies and they have less comfort, they have less leverage. They create regionals so that they can pay people less. So, but because we make up a lot of Americans flying, that means that we have a lot of leverage in the contract negotiations as well. So yeah, biggest regional. What other things do we have going for us going into negotiations? So something else I can think of, if we think about what just happened at Air Canada, there's a lot of public eyes. Yeah, Jeannie, they can't fly without us. The management isn't going to be on those. I mean, you know, some management could be on those planes, but like certainly not enough of them. They probably couldn't go a week doing what we do. Also, you know, those corporate executives probably don't understand what we do fully, and couldn't go into minimum rest all those days and work all those 13-hour days. But yeah, something I think about with Air Canada is how much public eyes are on flight attendants right now. There's a lot of growing movement around unions right now. There's a lot of growing movement around making sure flight attendants get paid right now. And that is definitely a piece of leverage that we have in the contract negotiations. American Airlines doesn't want bad press, right?
Nope.
Airline companies are really touchy and sensitive about that, because that means that some people might switch to a different airline or stop flying on their flights. So the media, so public pressure is certainly another thing that we have going for us going into the
Abby, real quick, I have to run.
Shane.
I just want to thank everyone for joining the call today, and what you can do something little today is make sure you wear your AFA pins. Thank you all, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat, and we will get to them. Thank you all. I've got to run because I have new hire base tour in Chicago right now. So thank you all very much, and wonderful rest of your day and weekend.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Shane.
Shane.
Thanks,
Take care.
Shane.
We'll talk later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Real quick,
Bye.
Abby,
Could I add something real quick?
Yeah, of course. Jody and then Armando.
So one of the things that I think is really important that did not get touched on, probably by accident, is to verify your email address is correct, so you're getting the communications.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I don't have that line specifically in here, but I have where you can go. And if you want to put that in the chat, the website to go to make sure that you can verify that.
Yeah, we
And then,
normally touch on it when Abby is done. I usually talk and remind them of that, but thank you, Jody, because that is the most important thing.
Okay.
Armando.
yeah, I just wanted to mention to John Jay. He has a question. We'll get to you. We'll get back to the question when we're finished with Abby's presentation and we're in the Q&A. So we're not ignoring you. We will get back to your question.
Awesome. Cool. So we have a lot going for us going into negotiations. We have a lot of flights that are important to EPs. We have a lot of flights that are important to people trying to get to their corporations in smaller towns, to their, to their kids' college, to their kids' colleges. There's places that we reach that mainline doesn't reach. I just like to highlight on this because I think sometimes the perception is, it certainly will have sometimes we'll have different scales of things because we're regional and we're just less people. But I think the perception is sometimes that we're a stepping stone, or that we don't have as much power because we're smaller. But that's generally put in place by management to make you feel that way. There's a lot of things that we do that are important. Yeah, smaller airports can't always handle the bigger planes. Exactly. Why is it important that we stand together, that we pull on the rope together? Why is unity important? Stronger together, for sure. This made me think of, this is darker, but it made me think of Squid Games. You know how at the top, when we're doing the tug of war, there was one person who was saying pull, and then everyone would pull at once, and then they'd take a break, And then he'd say pull, and everyone would pull in as one. Strength in numbers. Yeah, Jasmine was thinking Squid Games too. This does feel life or death for some people. People have families and stuff like that, but we're not gonna do anything that dark. But so what's important in this is that it's good to have leaders, right? So we have to be able to trust the people telling us when it's time to be very active, that there's a good reason why they're doing that, and that we have to stand together, united, and not pull on different sides of the rope, not cast distrust during this contract process, not all be united in pulling. All right, you can go to the next slide. Sorry, I took a little longer on that one. Cool. Why is it important to wear your pin and lanyard after we just talked about unity and stuff like that? Does someone know in the chat? Shane should have been on for this one. Boop, boop, boop. Be visible. Exactly. Support your negotiations team. Be visible. Other companies can see it, right? People know that red pin, so you'll get that red pin in this red lanyard during negotiations. Passengers can see it. Exactly. People know.
And
Go ahead.
if you don't mind, Abby, me to touch on what oh, well, Jody wrote it. I was gonna say I'm gonna touch on what Anna Kate wrote, but yes, it's not only other companies. It shows that you're supporting the union, and we're always going to have differences. There is always going to be a time where you don't agree 100%. Even us, when we're discussing things, we don't agree 100%, but we have to commit to come together and show the company we're standing together, because it's the only way we can fight them. And I'll touch more on that later on, but I've consistently been saying throughout this cause that the union is not the enemy, because you are the union. So not only us, we are representatives of the union, because we have a lot of flight attendants that don't have the time or the interest in being part of the active union. You are the ones that elect us to voice you. You are our eyes and ears. We are your voice. We're that liaison between your needs and the company, and we're the ones that represent you. So in the end, this is your union. It is not the union of Dermali or Jody or Shane or Armando. This is ours. And we have to show that even within the disagreements, just like any family or any group, even within the disagreements, even when we have hard times together, we have to stand together, because in the end, the enemy is not AFA, the enemy is the company, and we have to start looking at the company as that. They are the enemy. They have already started, and again, I'll touch more on what they have started doing. So will Abby, and I don't want to take up her time, but the main reason for you to put that pin on is more than I'm happy with my union, or I is telling the company I stand with my union and I will be supporting them, and then I will be participating on any election. So whatever the company gives us is going to come to you for a decision. The decision is not the negotiations team. We'll present to you whatever final offer the company gives us, but in the end, this is your union, this is your decision, and that TA will not pass if you participate and you allow the company to hear your voice in saying, no, we're not going to take this, or yes, this is good enough for me, I accept it. Thank you, Abby.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shamali. Yeah, people touched on some of that stuff too, right? But people know that red pin. Other flight attendants know what that red pin means. So it sends a message to other companies to get ready to support us. It sends a message to the passengers. The company hates that we're wearing these lanyards that say that they're not bargaining with us in good faith, or that we need our contract, or that other stuff like that. The passengers seeing that gives an opportunity to have that public pressure also. The lanyards will come out, Michelle, in January when we start. Lanyards and red pins, it's like a tradition that they come out as negotiations are starting, because it shows it shows where we are. But we have other pins available in crew rooms and stuff like that. Sure. And then this will become important too, right? The company needs to see that we're organized, so that we can organize towards the most effective way to get a good contract. Jamal, you want to go to the next slide?
Sure.
Yeah, we do need participation. Uh-oh.
I think we
Oh.
lost.
Uh-oh. There we go. What is chaos? Does anyone know what chaos stands for? I've had one person know so far. She's a mobilization rep in Miami. So one of the negotiators want to shout it out?
Here, let's get a couple seconds, see somebody. Anybody?
Hey guys, so chaos stands for create havoc around our system.
Yeah,
And what it
exactly.
is a series of random unannounced strikes. So what this means is not everybody can afford to go on strike as an entire workforce. However, what we can do is get the same effect by random unannounced strikes, which means at the last minute, a series of flights may be stricken because the flight attendants were given a notice by the union to go ahead and strike those flights. The end effect of that whole thing is people are terrified now to buy American Airlines tickets because they don't know if they're going to show up to the airport and all of a sudden they don't have a flight anymore. So we get the same bang as a full-fledged strike, but at the cost of only striking random numbers per day or per month or per week, however the program is designed.
Thanks so much, Sean. Couldn't have said it better myself. Just to touch a little bit on the Railway Labor Act. We're under a different set of laws than other employees, because we're considered too essential to the U.S.'s functioning, to go on strike as much as other employees, basically. Too essential, but still not too essential to give me my money, I guess. But so that means that it's a different process to get released to strike. So what it might look like is if we're in negotiation, and this will be very long down the road, so years and years. So years and years from now, if we get released into mediation, which is what PSA just got released into. Mediation is when the National Mediation Board, sometimes government officials will step in and try to get that contract settled. There'll be a lot of sessions. If mediation doesn't work, then you get released into what's called a cooling off period for 30 days. After that cooling off period, then the flight attendants are released to strike, and the company is released into self-help, which means that they can get scabs, they can break the contract, stuff like that. But the flight attendants are released to strike however they want under the National Labor Relations Act, which is what other employees have. They can't do intermittent striking or solidarity striking, and these are tools that they can't do because they've been considered too effective at, at cutting into the company's bottom line. But when we get released to strike, we can do them. So chaos is a type of intermittent striking. It just means that we catch them off guard. If we strike all together on one day, which it's something maybe that is the best effective tactic at the time, but the company kind of sees it coming and can scab, or can anticipate it in different ways than if we strike over a longer period of time randomly. 10 minutes before the flight, you'll get the call. But this is just to say that this requires a lot of coordination and organization. At the end of the day, this is the most effective strategy if they're not bargaining in good faith, not giving us a good contract, and we get released to strike. It's a long way down the road, but we need to be organized enough that the company is scared of this, and we need to be organized enough that if this day came, we would be united together. We wouldn't fly flights if you were told to strike. You would be ready. You would be on the email list. You would be knowing what was happening. which is why it's important for everyone to wear their pin too, so the company can see that we're organized and that we're together. Go ahead and go. Oh, also to say that this was created by Alaska flight attendants. Oh, interesting. We can get to that question at the Q&A, Jeannie. But this was created by Alaska flight attendants in the 90s, when they were probably just, I don't know if you know, John, but I think they were probably just as big as us. So it's got some good history in terms of smaller airlines. They were maybe a little bit bigger than us.
Were you referring to me when you said John? I'm sorry.
Yeah, do you know,
Yeah.
Alaska was probably just as big as us when they did Chaos for the first time.
They certainly weren't as big as they are today, but yes, they were roughly the size of a regional at that time.
Yeah.
A fun fact about that whole strike, if anybody wonders if Chaos is actually effective, Alaska Airlines actually took AFA to court to sue against that, because they were released, in fact, to go ahead and strike, but they tried to claim that Chaos was illegal, and the federal courts upheld the legality of Chaos.
That's
So
awesome.
if they didn't think that if management didn't think it wasn't such a pain in the butt effective strategy, it is, because they went to federal court over it and lost.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes, I mean, when it's happened before, sometimes you only have to strike 2 flights before the company folds. Because it really is like, if we think about our EPs who are like frequent flyers and understand what a chaos strike is, like they get very nervous and they'll call up their friends and be like, just settle the contract. I don't want to have to worry about my flight getting canceled. For sure. I did this in a couple other ones, but do folks know a good route that would be good to strike? Like, where are the EPs going?
X and A.
X and A, absolutely. X and A. I'm thinking HPN. I'm thinking DFW to Austin. Yeah, that's a really good one, Alex. GCA for sure. All right, you can go ahead and go on to the next slide. All right, here's a couple of examples. Oh, sorry, I'll go a little faster because I'm running out of time. But these are a couple of examples of things that other flight attendants have done. So this is the Air Canada flight attendants. The Air Canada has a different set of laws than us, obviously, but they gave their notice to strike. They all struck at once. The company took away all their non-red benefits. They left people stranded, but the flight attendants stood together and they stood united during that strike. The government actually said that they had to go back to work. And there's the union president ripping up that order. He said, send me to jail, give me a fine, I don't care. We won't live in these conditions anymore. Yeah, go ahead and go to the next one. Here's some PSA flight attendants. I just want to put this in there to emphasize solidarity. PSA is in negotiations now. Piedmont will be in negotiations when we're in negotiations. If we all stand together, that means more leverage. Here's an example of a day of action, and there's some Envoy flight attendants who might look familiar. So this is an example of a day of action. This happens before we're released to strike. This will happen probably a couple times during our negotiations, maybe more than a couple times. It'll be at every airport. We'll ask people to come out and to picket. So when those calls to action happen, we should be out there. We should be bringing friends. The more people we have out there, the more it shows the company that we're ready, more that shows the company that we're active and involved. And then it shows passengers, it shows other flight attendants what's happening as well. So it's really effective. PSA also did videos. So I don't know if you guys saw the videos of their flight attendants being like, this is how much we're paid, stuff like that. They also did letters to management that they had the public fill out. So they got really creative with it, and we'll likely be doing some of the same things. Okay, you can do the next one now. United flight attendants. I was asking people before what event this is, but I think it's too blurry to know. This is the a Polaris event. This was right before their TA got approved. So, it was rejected by the flight attendants, but got approved by the MEC. Basically, this was an event where the company had all their shareholders in to talk about their new Polaris first class. And United flight attendants came in, they disrupted, they said, why are you doing all this? Why are you putting so much money into your planes and not putting your money into us? You're telling us that at the negotiation table that we have to take concessions. At this point, they might have lost their dental. They might have lost some of their vacation days. There was a lot of concessions that were on the table. And, say what you want about the United contract, and the flight attendants voted it down, but the concessions mostly came off the table after actions like this, after days of action, after public pressure. I know American Airlines also did marches on the bus in Dallas, so they showed up to company headquarters. PSA showed up to when the company was doing a Charlotte Pride event. They showed up to emphasize the hypocrisy. So this is another example of some types of actions that you might see. You can go on to the next slide. Okay, does anyone have a slogan that they can give me in the chat? This is like pay us or chaos, or I've heard seamless service, seamless pay, or I've heard unpaid work won't fly. That's a good one from Air Canada. Or no tears in aviation. I also like that one. Does anyone have a good slogan? My friend Patrice, who I flew with yesterday, was supposed to be on to give a good slogan. I don't see her. Does anyone have one? Jamali, what do you got?
I think I like the one that we have on the yellow boards is well, there's one about company greed. I can't remember that one, but Jody, can you write the one, because I know you and I like the same one, and then seamless service, seamless pay was one that people mentioned on the last call,
Yeah.
and I think no pay no work was one that somebody mentioned to me. So
No
you can
second
come up
homes
with
for you.
ideas, and definitely anything related to that we are asked to do the same work and our lives set at risk every single time
Yeah,
will
exactly.
be good by me. But if the people on the call that are not part of the team can come up with anything, just type it, because we've had pretty good ones. Last call we had quite a few good new suggestions from the members.
All right. Well, you guys are thinking, we'll move on to the next slide.
I do think we need to have something new for us, but
Yeah. We'll be working on that. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Y'all can put them in the chat when you want.
One thing that will stand out, that will identify
Ask
as
AI.
American.
I'm not asking AI.
Yeah.
Good suggestion, but
No, we need to do something that it's free time won't fly. I like that one.
free time won't fly is great. I like that
Yeah,
one.
I really like that
no
one.
idea who.
So yeah, I know you guys get very creative, and I really think that this is something that we'll probably send some sort of email asking for suggestions as we do cruise seats. We'll definitely try to gather more ideas from the members, because again, this is your fight, it's our fight, not only just the negotiations team.
Okie dokie. All in for a failure. Ooh, a contest, Jeannie. I love that. We can talk about it tomorrow. All in for a fair contract. So just to talk a little bit about some other stuff that's going to happen during negotiations and is already starting to happen. When I was doing new organizing, so when I was trying to unionize a Starbucks, union busting looked different, but it also looked similar, right? It looked like spreading misinformation, management intentionally spreading misinformation. It looked like management enforcing rules that they didn't enforce before. It looked like management spreading distrust on the leaders. And that's some things that we can expect during our contract negotiations too. Dermali, I don't know if we wanted to talk a little bit about the red circling stuff.
I'm sorry. So, well, there's a couple of things. We have the red circling, we have the hotels, and there was one more thing I mentioned on the last call, which doesn't come to mind, and I don't have it on my notes. But talking about the red circling, what happens is that, as you know, a couple of uh, year and change ago, the company came back to us with flexing the pay. That would mean that the flight attendants that will come in, the that will be hired by the company after certain dates would be hired at the pay rate for the 4 year. And normally that's all the contract requires. You are hired, you get to 4 year pay, and then what happens is you freeze, which is what actually commonly people call the freeze. So you freeze, and it's not until you reach your physical 4th year that your pay increases. So you're basically on hold for 5 years, you don't get a pay increase. But the way the previous administration for our MEC negotiated this, it was the suggestion was, and the agreement with the company was, let's you're going to flex them, which they don't need any permission, that it's contractual. They just have to come to the union and say we're flexing the pay. But the suggestion was, and the agreement ended up being, that they were going to flex and progress, meaning that they would be bumped to the 4th year pay, but along with that they would increase in pay every year according to the contract. So they would go into the 5th year pay, 6 year pay, 7 year pay, and not remain frozen until they reach their 4th year. So that was happening until last month. The company has now decided that they are going to only flex everybody that is hired, or every flight attendant that is hired after September 1st. So anybody graduating, the class that graduated on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, they are graduating and they are freezing. This decision does not affect the people that were hired with Flex and Progress. Those people are going to continue to flex and progress, but the people that are hired now are only flexing. So these people are not going to receive a pay increase until they reach their 5th year of seniority, or until we come to a new agreement. That is important because what it's going to do is we're going to have more people leaving because of the lack of pay increase. Who puts up with no increase in 5 years? Well, the seniors, and now the very junior flight attendants. And I say the seniors because the seniors are now frozen at the top of this pay scale, and we will not see that group of flight attendants will not see any pay increase until we come to an agreement on a contract. Then that's the red circle, and then we have the hotels. So for those of you that are commuters and use your commuter hotels very often, you know how the contract allows for the crew schedule granting for commuter hotels that are adjacent before or after any sequence that you have in your schedule. For reserves is any before or after a reserve date, and it's just four. Then a couple years ago we agreed in another agreement that was made with the company. The agreement was that there were going to be 3 additional if you picked up OT. So what has happened for the last, I would say, year and a half, or maybe a little bit more, is that the company has not been on taking that to, doing that by the book. They have been allowing everybody, or most people, to get 7 commuter hotels, whether you are picking up OT or not. So coming to negotiations now that we're approaching that date, then we have seen, I would say, started about a month ago, that the company is going back to the actual contract verbiage, which is 4 and 3 3 additional only if you pick up OT. So that is what they're doing, because the way this is done, and one of the reasons this is done is they have a lower starting point when we're going into to negotiations. So they take it back so that when we're negotiating, the starting point it's the original starting point. And then the second thing, and I think it's most important in this sense and every other sense, is that circles back to what we talked earlier, is the question is always, if you go on Facebook or if you talk to anyone, the question is, so what is the union doing? Right? So that changes the narrative, it changes the perspective, it puts you kind of against the union representatives in asking, what can you do? Well, unfortunately, this is contractual, there's nothing we can do. And 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 they're taking it back to what was agreed, right? So in that sense, there is very little we can do. Can we have a conversation? Of course. Do we take it to the company when it happens? Of course. But is it in paper and they're doing it quote unquote legally? Yes, they are, because they're just simply saying, we were doing it this way, we're giving you more than the contract requires. Now we're taking it to what the contract requires. And what that does is it takes away the attention from them and it puts it in the union, because normally the reaction of any flight attendant will be, like I said just now, is what is the union going to do? What is the union doing? The union is not doing anything. Well, in reality, where the attention should be is, the company did this. They did this to us and we have to stand up to them. They did this to us, and when they give us something that we don't want, when we go to that negotiation, we have to stand up with those representatives and say, no, we're not going to take the scraps that you're giving us. We want what we deserve, right? So please be mindful that this is happening, will continue to happen, and it happens all the time, even when we're not in negotiations. And don't be fooled by them trying to change the narrative of what they are doing. It is not, it is our responsibility to fight with you and for you, but it is not our rules, because we're never going to argue if you get more than what you deserve. But there is a limit to what we can argue when they're going by the book and changing the rules as they want.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Zermali. Yeah, and it'll be our responsibility to talk to the new hires and to distribute information about this. But I just wanted to give people a sense of what was happening, and then also help you understand that it is like all of our responsibility to make sure that we cut down on misinformation, that we know the correct channels to reach out to if we're confused about something. Being a flight attendant can be a big game of telephone sometimes. Misinformation tends to spiral. Sometimes the source of the misinformation is management. Sometimes it is intentional. Even if it's not management, it's still serving the company and not serving us. So we all have a responsibility to make sure that we're stopping the spread. um, and cutting down on that misinformation, because it will affect negotiations. If wild rumors are spreading about the negotiators or about the union, then people are going to be less engaged, or people are going to pay dues less. Like there'll be consequences to that misinformation that will affect you. Mobilization reps. So there'll be mobilization reps at each base. In Miami, there'll be 4. In Dallas, there'll be 4. In Chicago, there'll be 4. In Phoenix, there'll be 2. These will be the people responsible for doing sits, for flyering, for making sure that your voices are heard. They'll be responsible for getting people to things. They'll be responsible for getting the information to people. I believe we have a couple on the call. Jeannie, did you want to jump on and say hello? And then Michelle.
Let me open the,
Hi, can y'all hear me?
yes.
Hi, I am Jeannie Atkinson, one of the DFW reps. I've been here going on 29 years. Looking forward to meeting more of our DFW flight attendants and bringing everybody together so that we can have a really good turnout this year, this coming negotiations. As somebody who's been here 20 plus years, I've been through quite a few contracts, and we've never really had a good turnout. And I finally am at a stage in my life where I have some available time and I'm ready for a good contract. It's been a long time. And I feel like if we all come together, we could actually get that. And looking forward to working with everybody and bringing everybody together for a contract we actually deserve.
Thanks so much, Jeannie. Michelle, did you want to pop on and say hi? Are you at the football?
I can't figure out how to work it.
No worries.
I can't. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Michelle Kelly. I've been with the company
Yes.
for almost 7 years, and my baby is reserve. I sit reserve by choice and have the whole time. So that is my main focus. But of course, happy to help with everything and happy to work with people getting motivated to get involved.
Thanks so much, Michelle. Yeah, so there'll be a newsletter out hopefully next week with all of the people who at your base is the mobilization rep and the contact information to get in touch with them if you need to. And then hopefully we'll be doing a sit maybe this month or next month. So definitely look out for those things. There'll likely also be a contract action team, so will be a way that everyone will get involved. The contract action team gets information a little earlier and is responsible for making sure that disinformation is not being spread, get some pins, get some lanyards to hand out to people, stuff like that. Make sure that you're following official channels. We'll just be posting on our Facebook page. I'll have it up in a second, but we'll just be posting on our official MEC Facebook page as well as a negotiations page. We'll be posting on Instagram. We'll have a negotiations website. Again, all of these links will be up. The next one, make sure that you're signed up for the newsletter and that your email is updated on that. And there'll be a YouTube also. I don't have a link for the YouTube, but we'll make sure. I'm going to send out, when this is put on YouTube, I'm going to send out the link to everyone for that. Make sure you check to see if you're in standing. All in wear your pin. If you don't have a pin, you can reach out to your mobilization rep. You can reach out to any union representatives at your base to make sure that you get a pin. And then make sure you're involved. So there'll be an MEC meeting, Dermali, in October.
So yeah, we have scheduled LEC and MEC meetings. They will be published before bids close so that you can make arrangements and attend if you are interested in attending. They will all be available via Zoom, so you don't have to be there in person. The MEC meeting actually is scheduled to be on Zoom for everybody. So that information will come out to the members sometime. We are trying to make some adjustments on the date, so that's why we haven't published anything, but we definitely will publish before the 10th so that everybody has the opportunity to bid. And touching on what you just said, Abby, if you don't mind, and what Jody said earlier, it is crucial and important that you remember two things. If you're signing up for the newsletters, there's two types of newsletters you're signing up for. Newsletters come from the local and they also come from CWA or international. So when you go to the union page at the very bottom of the main page, the first page that pops up, there's on the bottom left a section where you can click and fill out the form for the local and MEC newsletters. Then to the bottom right, that is the information that goes to international. We need to have updated two things from you. It is the mailing address, and we need to have a good personal, has to be address. AFA does not send any communication whatsoever to aa.com emails. So if you've provided that email to us, you're not in the subscriber list or if you're not receiving any emails, and if you recently changed your email address, please make sure that you edit that information as soon as possible, because there are certain things that are exclusively sent through email, that like the surveys that will be sent, all the information will be sent there. So make sure that it's a good email address, but also that it is a personal email address. Your phone number should be up to date as well, just because we might at some point be able to afford a program that the union provides for sending text alerts. So if we ever do that, it is important that you sign up with the correct information. So go to afacwa.org, AFA-CWA, if somebody doesn't mind typing that, afacwa.org. You can go into the membership link, or you can do afacwa.org/membership. That'll take you to the page that will take you to the dues. So first, make sure that you're signed up. You do that on afaeagle.com. That's our internal MEC LEC for Envoy webpage, afaeagle.com. And you can find all union information there, rosters, everything for negotiations, everything for grievance, CAP, etc. And then afacwa.org is the international page, which you will use to go /membership, which you will use to go to your personal profile at International, where you can check that your dues are up to date. There are multiple reasons why your dues could be not up to date. And if you have proof, say, for example, they say you did not pay $25 in the month of March, just go to both your paychecks, to make sure that those two paychecks, it doesn't matter the period. What matters in this case is the actual date of the paycheck. So it would be, say it's March 15, March 31st, and look at those paychecks. If you have proof that there was a pay submitted or included in your paycheck, then you would need to go to International, send them that proof, and they'll go to the company and get that money from the company. So those two things are crucial, because those are our two most important things in order to vote and receive the surveys and also the TA. And in order to be able to vote on the TA when it comes to fruition, you need to be in good standing, meaning that your dues are up to date, or that you have made a payment plan, which you can now do yourself with International to put your dues up to date at some point. And B, make sure that your personal information, if you change your last name, if you change your name, so the important information we need, and I'd rather have you send all the information. Name, last
Picking up.
name, employee number. We have 4 bases, 3 councils, because Phoenix and Chicago belong to one council. So your base, your phone number, mainly your cell phone, because that's what we use nowadays, your personal email, and a good mailing address. If you send us all that information, we'll go into the system to update that with us. Go afaeagle.com, bottom of the page, left side, there's some squares colored blue and red, if I'm not mistaken, bottom left, that one is for the internal communication. Update that one, and we'll also update International if you don't do the other one. Thank you, Abby.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. All right, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. I just have the union busting. It is disgusting. All right, so this slide kind of just goes over what was in the last slide, but we're just going to keep this up for a second. I have all of the official information in the chat. Thanks, John, for participating. We'll catch you next time. If you had any questions, you can email them to us or put in the chat right now before you go. Get to know your contract before surveys. That's probably a good thing to do right now. If the more you know the contract, the more like it'll be easier to fill out those surveys if you know your contract. Get to know your mobilization team, wear your pin, and be involved. These are the things that you can do right now. Jamali, do you want to set up the Q&A?
Sure. All right, let me stop the share. Here's some information if anybody wants to write those down, so I'll give you a couple of minutes. Again, start raising your hand with the reactions button, and I will say your name before we ask you to unmute. Keep yourself muted until I ask you to unmute so that we keep it organized. If you have any additional questions, I will ask Armando or Jody to either of you to go from top to bottom on the chat and let me stop the share and go over the questions that are in the chat, please.
So we got the first question, but he just left, was from John. I think there's a little misinformation there. His question is, if vacation / sick days are worth 345 hours a day, why, why is if we're scheduled to fly, if we're scheduled to fly less than 345 hours, we're not paid 345? Well, actually there's there's two things. Vacation is a totally separate vacation. If we're talking about vacation is a block of 7 days, and it's a total of 21 hours. If you divide 21 hours, then 7, it's 3 hours a day for vacation. PVDs, maybe that's what he was trying to say. PVDs are worth 345 a day minimum, or whatever you're supposed to fly that day. If you like say had a day trip and you dropped the day trip, which was 6 hours, you're going to get paid 6 hours. Why is it that there's a difference between vacation pay and the PVD? Because the contract, PVDs are the value of the day. Vacation, it goes because it's a value of the week. So, and the second part was to say fly less. Well, that is incorrect. If you have a reserve line so I'm assuming that's where it's coming from. If you have a reserve line and they only give you a turn which is 2 hours, you will be getting a credit of 1 hour 45 for that day. They cannot pay you less than those 2 hours. So we have to remind ourselves that we get paid 75 hours guarantee a month, or 37 and a half if you're part-time. Your calculations for the month, that 75 hours, as long as you don't do something to your schedule, you're going to get paid your 75 hours. Let's say, for example, during your reserve period, and it's already the day 26, and you already flew 75 hours, physically flew 75 hours during the month, and the next day they gave you the next trip they gave you a 2-hour trip, you're going to get paid 78.45, not 77, because you are guaranteed 345 minimum per day. That's what the min credit is per day.
Before you move on to a follow-up, before you move on to the next question, there's a follow-up question. And Jean, well, it's actually a comment, but it kind of ties to a question. It reads, I think the biggest issue with vacation is that people complain about that he might be talking about is that how the value of the day is 345, but for vacation, it's only worth 3 hours. However, the extension days are valued at 345. So why the difference? There should be equal in many people's eyes. This should be equal in many people's eyes. So why is it the value of the day 3 hours, and why is it the value of the vacation extension or value of the day 345, or vacation or PVD when you request a PVD is 345 as well?
Okay, so going back the three, okay, I explained 12 hours, the 7 days, which is divide 21 hours, and it'll be 3 hours a day. So the vacation extensions are at 345, but it's a deduction of your pay. This came about when we lost when the concessions came and we had to go from paper bid to PBS. The only way that we told the company, the only way that we can get the flight attendants to vote, or to agree on this PBS, which is something we didn't want in the beginning, is that you need to give us more time off. Because when it was paper bid, let's say I had vacations the 4th, well, let's make it simple, the 1st to the 7th, and I had a trip touching the 7th, a 4-day trip, I would request a DTS, which would mean drop vacation. They would drop the whole thing. But I would get paid for the 7th, because that day fell on my vacation block. But the 8th, 9th, and 10th, you would get those days off. They would guarantee the days off, but it was going to be unpaid. Or on the other end, if you have vacations from 1 month to the next, and it ended on the 1st, well, you had guaranteed the first 3 days they're going to remove that trip, guaranteed, if you requested it. And so it was going to be negative. It was going to be a negative pay on either side. So during negotiations, we said let's come up with some kind of way for people that want to have more time off for vacation, because back then, if we would have left the PBS how it was, you would just get your 7 days and that's it. And if you were senior enough to hold days off, next to your vacation block, well, then you had a little bit of advantage. But for those people that didn't have an advantage and had to come to work, the day prior, finish their work the day prior to vacation and immediately come back to work the day right after the vacation, they were saying, well, was it going to be fair that they only get their 7 days and they had to work? So we could try to get to work with something to get this PBS say the word. I'm trying to be cordial here. I'm going to we're recording. Trying to get this PBS issue out of the way during negotiations, during the contract bankruptcy negotiations. The company agreed to, okay, we were trying to get 4 on each end. The company only agreed to one group of 4, but we could divide it. The flight team could divide it the front or the back, or however you wanted to do 1, 4, 3, or just take 1 day. It was your option up to 4 days. If you want to do that, you're not obligated to do that. But it was a way to help the flight attendant expand their vacation in some way to alleviate that just a 7-day vacation and right back to work scenario that a lot of people had, especially those that had reserve. And back then reserve was a constant. We had flight attendants of 9 years. We have Angela online. She knows she was on reserve 6 or 7 years nonstop before she could hold the line when before this bankruptcy and this PBS issue came into play. So that's part of the reason we have the 345, and because it was a drop, it was considered a drop, and the value of the day is 345. That's why also the value of the day of a drop is 345, just like a reserve if they drop their day or whatnot. I hope I explained it a little bit.
And if you don't mind me adding, because this is what I was explaining, and John Carlos, if you need to jump in, just unmute yourself and talk. But there's also I'm not saying don't kill the messenger. I'm not saying I agree with this, but the reason why the value of and he touched on it earlier, the reason why the value of the day on vacation is 3, it's because it's per week and it is prorated. So the vacation week before bankruptcy used to be valued at 18 hours. And after bankruptcy, the proposal was that it went up to 24 hours. That was the initial proposal, but that never came to fruition. And we actually had to deal with this. That's why I'm kind of remember really well. The agreement then through bankruptcy with the company was that it would go to a total of 21 hours for the week. So even through bankruptcy, we did see an increase. The goal that the union had, and this is how it was explained to me back then, was to match the value of the day and multiply by 7 days, but that didn't come to fruition. So the agreement was 21 hours. If you divide by the 7, then it's quote unquote prorating it. That's regarding the regular vacation. Then also regarding the vacation extension, somebody, I think it was Michelle. Yeah, Michelle wrote, but it's not more than no, not more days off as it counts as part of your reserve if you are reserved. So I will correct that, Michelle. It is part of your 11 days to everyone. So when you go to the contract, vacation expansions are part of 11 days for both line holders and reserve people. The difference is that, and again, don't kill the messenger, because I don't necessarily agree with the entirety of that. But remember, this was negotiated where there were more conceding things than getting things. So the way this was negotiated was any flight attendant is allowed to expand, because it's called expansion in the contract, to, although we call it extension, I think it's addressed as extension in one portion of the contract only, but it is legal for any flight attendant to expand their vacation by 4 days at either end of the vacation or split, right? And if you have more than 1 week together, it's 4, but they can only be 4 to each end. So if you have 2 continuous weeks, you cannot split the blocks of 4, because they have to be adjacent to the week that they belong to. So what happens is that any line holder that bids and is awarded 11 days and they request vacation expansions, those 4 days will also be part of their 11 days. It is not different for the line holders. The difference is that when you are calculating through PBS, there is a reduction in the value of the line. So that reduction causes that the flight attendant needs less hours to complete their bid, because their target value is less. And that allows that it completes the schedule with more days off normally. But I just want to point out that this situation of the expansions or extensions being part of the 11 days off, it's contractually for both line holders and flight attendants that are on reserve. It is contractual. It's there. You can find it in the section that talks about scheduling, section 8. And the difference is caused by that, is because for line holders, there is that possibility of holding more than 11 days off. Therefore, if I were to hold 13 days, it's 13 days, and then the extensions will be outside of the 11, at least 3 of them in that case. So I hope that helps to clarify that. And then it reads that it just seems wrong to have a day value of 345 and not have the same value on vacation day. And I 100% agree with you. So going back to I hope that clarifies that for everybody. Armando, next question, if you have it. I had to move to the bottom of the chat.
I don't see any more questions in the chat besides Jay. John, let me see, double check.
Somebody wrote, I'm curious about chaos. Jean wrote, I'm curious about chaos. Can it be things like writing up maintenance issues that sometimes we let slide? I would say yes, because you know what, Jean, in the end, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing with us. So, I mean, I know we're not going to do that on the last day, right? Because we don't want to sacrifice our go home day. But let's be honest. If they are pulling back our pay, if they are taking back the...
Oh,
Nope.
Emma,
I'm not sure what happened there, but Jeannie, just
violating.
That's
you
what
cannot,
American did at the end of, you cut out, Jamali. That's what American pilots did at the end of their, before they got their TA finalized, is they did exactly that. And I know because my son works there. So, yes.
The other people, there's there's different types of, like, chaos is the type of striking, but there's also like other ways to create havoc. I know some airlines, people stop selling credit cards or stop doing pre-departures. Right now, maintenance. So yeah, we'll have to get really creative because it's hard to get released to strike. So they're
Yeah,
and we
those
cannot
those
put
credit
you
cards
guys.
make a lot of money for them.
yeah, they
Yeah,
make
and
a
we cannot put you guys
lot of
in a
money.
place where you can get in trouble with the company. So all I was saying is we're not gonna tell you call out sick,
Yeah.
everybody on a say on because we cannot do that. We cannot promote that, but we can promote other things. So Jean, yes, I agree with you. Those are the things we should be doing. They're pulling money from us by not giving us those extra hotels that they have been giving us for 2 years now. They are pulling money from the new hires and then they're freezing them until their fifth year. Of course, we have to start. This is broken and it's just that cable that, and it's mid sequence, just report it. It might not ground the airplane, it might. So we have to be prepared to do our fair share because for some people it's hard to say, okay, I'm gonna have to put up with staying at this station for 3 hours because no. But if we were going to do that, I would say look at those stations that do not have. We would need to look into stations that do not have um, maintenance there. Those are the best stations to do those kind of things. But the truth is, we cannot do things that are illegal. But definitely, if they are being by the book, so can we. That's basically the message. If they can be by the book, so can we.
Yeah,
Let me make it clear, Abby, before you continue. Someone mentioned something about not doing pre-departures. That's part of your duties. But right now, we're doing. We are not saying do anything.
Condoning or
I'm not
promoting.
I'm not condoning or promoting. I'm just saying that is what
We're
some other people have done.
We're not at that stage at this time. That we're talking about, who knows how long. We're hoping we get a contract, with the company fair, and we don't have to get to that point and level.
Oh, yeah.
But so let's make it clear that we're not saying, especially because this is being recorded. We don't come back to us.
And to be clear, that's not
No,
something we're
and not
doing
only
now.
that, it's
It's
again, we
not
circle back to the
now.
sickles and yeah.
Yeah.
So correct. Like Jody said, it is not now that we're calling for this. B, we're never going to ask you to do something that can get you in trouble. So again, if we're going to do anything, make sure that you follow what we're going to be discussing when we do these Zoom calls and when you talk to your mobilizers. That's crucial because we need to be in sync. We need to be doing this together. It will be of no point if two people are doing it. It needs to be in mass, but mainly it needs to be legal. So that's why I say anything that it's by the book, like Armando pointed out. If you don't do your pre-departure, if you don't give the PAs, if you don't board on time, those are things that can be penalized, and you can be, you can find the company can take disciplinary action against you. We don't want more work. We don't want to be sitting with you at the office because you're not doing something that is required by you. But if something is broken and you need to call it out, and normally we let it slide, why not? They are being by the book, so can we. But keep that phrase in mind, by the book. Do not ever stop doing what you do because that's how we get the public to support us. Even when we are not well paid, we're still doing our job. Even when we're not being paid, we board on time. Even when we're not being paid, we give that pre-departure service. We put the blame on them. They are not paying me for a service I am giving. If we stop giving pre-departure drinks, then what service am I asking to be paid for? Right? So keep that in mind. Same thing for deplaning, same thing for anything that it's required by us. Be there on time, do your job as you do it every day. That's what we're calling for. If we're going to do some organizing, if we're going to do something against them, we also have to do because this is for us.
Yeah, Jeannie.
We need
Oh,
to
sorry.
unite doing the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go
So
ahead, JC.
Yeah, so Jeannie just brought up a really good point. So she's mentioning delays. So I think we need to remember a distinction. If it's probably the best way to put it is, so what Jamali's talking about, the things that we are required to do, those are the things that will be legal to do if we are released into chaos. So if we are released into chaos, the company's alternative is have no flights at all. So we could end up calling, like, for example, a service strike. So the company has a choice. They can either just let us continue the way we're going, or they can just outright not have the flights. That's the stuff we can't do before we are released into a 30-day cooling off period. So, but what we can do before that, if we, for example, if we go down the path of United and American Mainline, where they are just not releasing the parties into a cooling off period, the pilots often refer to it as fly safely. And like Jamali said, by the book. So Jeannie just listed a few items that are commonly broken on our aircraft: the seat backs, the seat trays, the snappy things for the first class tray table to do the service on. There's all kinds of things that can be written up because they do need to be addressed by the book. And when the pilot puts it in the maintenance logbook, maintenance might not fix it, but they do have to come to the aircraft to defer the broken item. And that's what causes delays. So just remember, there's a fine line between what Jamali's talking about, which is what we have to do. It's required of our jobs. None of that can be done until we're actually released into strikes.
Yeah, it's also called malicious compliance or work to rule.
Boom. I love that term. I hadn't heard of that term, but I like it.
That's Joe Burns. I think that covers it pretty well. I think, like, we need to, like, our jobs are challenging. We go to work after 8 hours behind a door, probably a couple hours actual sleep, at least me. Sometimes we work 12 to 14-hour days. Sometimes we're very, very, very disciplined. In order to have this job, you're a hard worker and you're very disciplined, and we need to bring that same attitude when we're doing organizing, and and that's something that the corporate folks don't have, that we do. And we need to be strategic around how we're building the contract campaign as flight attendants, and we need to work as a team when those calls are made, and not do disparate actions.
Yeah, we need to do this all together. Wait, that's the purpose of the mobilizers, is to spread the information, talk to your peers as you fly, let them know you attended this call. If we see that there's a need for additional information to be sent out, we'll definitely can schedule something else, but they can also attend the MEC meeting and their local meeting. It is very important that we start seeing people going to those meetings, because if you don't attend that meeting, you're not up to date with what. And I see that there's a question. I'll touch on that in a second, but it is very important that we start seeing participation. These meetings are not for us. We know what's happening at the local level. We know what's happening at the MEC level. These meetings are for you to hold us accountable, for you to ask the questions, for you to make the suggestions, because we are when we take these positions as union representatives, it says it in the name, union representative. We are representing you, your needs, your asks. And of course, there has to be a compromise. There's so much we can do, and there's so much that sometimes we're asked that we cannot do. But still, the learning process has to happen together. And as we move forward, we need to see more participation, because this is yours and it is for you. There's a question, and I replied to one of them. Can we have the PowerPoint email to us? It will be, now that we're finalized with these 3 calls, it will be made available through the union website on the negotiations link. And the next question, typed by Angelina, reads, you mentioned earlier that the negotiation team will be training in every base, and who will be training them, and the list that is on the train, on the for the negotiation. I didn't get to write it down. So if you go to afaeagle.com, Angelina, you will find in the committees, the negotiations committee, that's where you can find all the information, names, contact information regarding negotiations, etc. With that said, the training will be held in DC. It will be Joe Burns, who's the lawyer that is in charge of negotiations. He's not our lawyer, but he's in charge of making sure that everyone takes the training. He's the lead lawyer, and so everybody he prepares this kind of training. He will be there, so the team will go there. It will be Abby, Armando, John Carlos, Shane, and I attending the training, and then he will be there. So will be our staff negotiator that has been assigned. What is her name, Armando, if you don't mind
Just
reminding me?
that last name is really kind of it's Italian, so it's Beth DeSaforo.
Oh,
I just know about playing Beth, but her last name
yeah,
I've always had.
her first name is Beth. So Beth has been
You
assigned
can
to
ask.
us.
You can ask Italian here. If somebody just sends me the name, I'll pronounce it for you.
Oh, I know how to pronounce it. It's just I don't remember the name.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'll look it up on my emails and tell you in a second. But we will be there 9th and 10th, and then we'll come back. And after that, that's when Abby, along with the representative for the person assigned mobilization training for international, will meet with her, and then she will be training along with, I mean, the presidents can be there, etc., but she will be there along with Tony, that's her name, Tony Higgins, and she will be the person taking care of that training particularly. Her
Just to make it clear, in your question, Angelina, you mentioned earlier the negotiation will be training in every base. No, we're not, it's just we're just all of us, the negotiation team, and Abby will be in DC training. We won't be in every base. Let's make it that clear.
I think I said every base, mobilizers. Mobilizers at each base will be trained.
That could be it.
Thanks, Angelina.
One thing that we do, well, the months for that when we're negotiations, usually we meet in Dallas or now we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, have the company wants to continue doing negotiation with Zoom. For me, I don't think it's very beneficial because you just don't carry these books and everything with you back and forth, back and forth. It could just it gets tiresome. Plus your luggage back and forth. But usually how it works is we meet at Dallas, or we would meet at a certain base. Let's say we get tired of going to Dallas and we say like we just need to change the pace. You know, sometimes going to the same room every session, you see the same walls. You're like, I can't do this. You end up going to another base. So let's say we go 1 month. We decide to go to Miami to do negotiations. Yeah, usually, and it all depends on the time and budgets and whatnot. The negotiation team will meet with the members in the lounge the day prior or the day after. It all depends. Just to get feedback from the members and let them know that we are here in your base, and we also want to let you know that we still take suggestions. Want to hear you. We want to give you updates on what we can give out, information we can give out for negotiations. One thing that we didn't mention during these 3 sessions that I remembered, American Eagle Airlines before Envoy came into play, the name Envoy, American Eagle Airlines union, we were the first union, the first ever to start doing these YouTube videos and give information to the flight attendants of what happen at the table, things that we got achieved, which was against AFA policies. But we said no more, no, we were no longer going to be silent to the members, because back then you keep your mouth shut and till the TA came out, then you present to the members. And the negotiation team would get very bad feedback. Like, you kept quiet with all this, and we didn't know this was going on, and we could have told you this was going on, because believe it or not, back then was 7 bases. I was when I participated as in the negotiation, not as a negotiation member, they were talking about international. None of them flew international. And I was hearing what they were talking about at one of our MEC meetings. I'm like, that doesn't happen in San Juan. That's not the way we were operating in San Juan. And they were like, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. That's how, like, well, that's not how it's going. So I took upon myself as a local president back then that I was going to sit during the negotiations, during the international section. And they were astonished with all the stuff I was telling them. Like, no, we don't do that. Luckily, also back then, Casey Rollat, who used to be the Linda Coombs for Executive Airlines, that's what she was at the table, and she goes, yeah, that's how it goes. And then you would see American Eagle look at Executive like, what are you talking about? That's not the way this is. So it's things happen that you don't know is happening one base, happening in another base, or just in general, the companies has a certain set of rules that they were just applying to one group and not another. It's so these open discussions that we brought up to YouTube and whatnot actually became very beneficial, and then AFA actually picked up, and the other carriers follow through with saying what we started. So it was a big help for other airlines what we did to open the doors for communication to the members.
Thank you, Armando. And let me see if there's anything else.
Okay, the next question says, once everyone does a survey, how will it be determined? Will we know the final topics that will be negotiated in the meeting? So this question was brought up in the last session. When the surveys are sent out, you are given at least, and I'm just throwing a number out there because it's been years since the last survey that when we had negotiations. You will have like information where you want to give your opinion and whatnot, and then let's say 10 slots, just using 10 as a starting point. You have 10 slots to give different things that need to be changed to the contract. I said this in the last session. I'll say it again. Save your pay as first, because everybody that is on our top list. That is before even American Eagle would put, we want pay, American Eagle and AFA. So put in other things in there, and because we know pay will be the number one option. Even if we don't see it in the survey, we know that is. And we too, we're flight attendants as well. And we fly, regardless of what they're saying on Facebook. Even yesterday, that these people are not flying. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing on the airplane pushing that cart then. So anyways, pay is essential. I mean, we're doing this voluntary that we don't get a second paycheck. There's no second paycheck that's coming from AFA from us. This is a voluntary job. The union, if we have to be removed from a trip, the union reimburses us our flight time, but we lose our per diem. We don't get the per diem. So, going back to sorry, I went on a tangent there, but the surveys that said just fill in your 10 top main issues that you want to see change in the contract, and we work from there. So if you want to go ahead and put pay, you're gonna go ahead and put pay. We understand, but I'm saying you can easily leave out pay, because that is like the top of the top. Regardless, we don't see it on your survey. And then what we do is we compile all these surveys together, And then we'll look and say, okay, the majority of people, besides pay and besides per diem, they are focusing on, let's say, meal breaks. They really want to, they're focusing on meal breaks, and meal breaks is a big issue here. How could we need to bring this, address this in the company, that this is one of the issues the flight attendants want to talk about is meal breaks and how we can fix it, how can we improve it, blah, blah, blah. And then the second issue is, we will look at what was the majority of the people's main concern. And that's how we flow. But we do go through every single section of the contract to see the difference of concerns that the majority of the flight attendants do have. And then like I said we presented also to our staff negotiator, who would also understand, look at this part here, maybe this needs to be changed, but you got to be careful what you ask for, because changing this might change that. It's a little of a process, but it's oh God, there's a word I wanted to say, I can't forget it. Sorry, English is not my first language, so I'm trying I think in Spanish and try to say it in English. Anyways, so let's say when we compile these surveys, we try to figure out the majority and the main concerns of the flight attendants, from the most important to the least important, and also parts of the contract that you want to say that you also decide, like, even though the flight attendants want to touch this topic, if we touch this topic, the company's going to open this topic and try to take away this. That has happened. Oh, you want to touch this? You want to talk about this? Okay, we want this, and then we'll talk about this. And sometimes it's a very hard decision sometimes that you have to take during negotiations.
So I'm going to touch, thank you, Armando. I'm going to touch on the last two questions here, because we're kind of need to be in closing the call. So it reads, is retro pay something that is guaranteed that we will ask for? We will always ask for retro pay, and I think it's much better than bonuses. I think it will cover more. Whether we get it or not, that will depend on how we vote on the TA, because if they don't want to give it and that's what you think we should get, then you know where you should be swaying your vote, right? But yeah, that's definitely something that will be asked for, the short answer. And then adding on to the maintenance issue, we need pilot support. What is being done to get support? So basically, we're reaching out not only to the pilots, but to all unions. I meet with CWA. We attended the CWA convention. I've talked to, because one thing I did not point out, which I've done on the other two calls, is that next year, and I'm pretty sure the company is going to try to use this as an excuse. The next year, it's not only us negotiating. They're negotiating now with PSA, but it will be Piedmont and us. And within Envoy, it's flight attendants, maintenance, agents, and and ramp agents. So those four groups, aside of the fact that Piedmont flight attendants will be also negotiating, will be negotiating next year. We need to reach out not only to the pilots. So we have that discussion. We reach out to their representatives. We are reaching out to all these units. I've already talked to the CWA agents person in Miami, and also overall, I've reached out to the local Miami representative for the rampers. The only person I haven't talked to or reached out to is the representative for the maintenance group. But yes, we do reach out to these other work groups. The more, the merrier. And the bigger the support, the better. So the same way we will ask them for support, then we will be supporting them. That is crucial. It is important, because it not only shows the company, this is a flight attendant fight. No, it sends a message to the public, and it sends a message to the company. This is an internal fight against you that are giving me bad pay, but are also doing it to other work groups. If we support each other, it's better, because this will be a bigger fight. When we did the last picketings I personally did for something internal was in San Juan, when they were going to close the base. We knew the base was going to close, but we needed to make this public. And what we did is we reached out to the news, we went to the Senate, and we actually, that was made public through TV. But then we also reached out to our pilots who were in the picketing lines with us. We reached out to our maintenance people. We reached out to the representatives from Rampers. At the time, the agents were not unionized, so they
EWA convention?
were correct. Yeah, we reached out to everybody. So this is a group fight. This is an employee fight against the company. We're definitely reaching out to all of them, and hopefully they will decide to support us or not. That's something we cannot determine, but we do reach out via email if we go to meetings. So that's why I attended the CWA convention. So did Shane and Teresa. So we are moving forward, and we're trying to make this a bigger fight. Supporting each other is how we start.
Yeah, also, we all know pilots and gate agents and maintenance people and cleaning people. Reaching out to your own networks is important too when it comes to, an extra 1 or 2 people on the picket line or in a day of action or like that. That makes a difference for us. So, yeah, we can definitely. I talk to pilots all the time. We have Me Too's. If we get better stuff, they get better stuff sometimes. They should be out there with us.
So it reads, Angelina wrote, what is considered to be on good or bad standing? That's very basic. When you're behind in your dues and there's been a certain amount of time that you don't put them up to date, you're placed in their different numbers. It starts on 2, ends on 5. 5 is when you get that letter that everybody goes crazy with because it says you can be released. So whenever you have a number in your standing, it means that you're not in good standing, but it just simply means that you owe money to the union. Again, go to afa.cwa.org/membership to make sure that you are in good standing. You have time because the LEC and MEC meetings are not until October. In order for you to attend those, you should be in good standing. So make sure that you have that checked and that your information is put up to date. I will give it a minute to see if we have anyone either raise their hand or have new questions. If I don't see anything as we're talking, I want to thank the team and
Frozen.
Close again.
that was already elected and do this with us. I want to thank the rest of the MEC, Jody, Elizabeth, Teresa, who are just supporting us as we move forward in this fight. But more than anything, I want to thank all the members that are here, the ones that left, the ones that were here on the 2 previous calls. This is very important. This is not the MEC's fight. This is our fight. We are in this together. And if we keep that going, we're going to be stronger and better and prepared to fight the company, to say no if the time comes to say no when they give us a TA that we don't agree with. We will be rooting for this movement to continue to progress and be better. If you have suggestions, if you have ideas, please reach out to us. Take a look at the union website. Always visit there, afaeagle.com. All the information is there. If you see something that is missing information and you have an idea, reach out to our communications representatives. Juan and Chris do a great job of keeping that page and our newsletter system up to date. So please reach out to them. Update your information. We have to start just kind of joining and share the information. The union, that phrase has to be kind of put in everyone's head. The union is not the enemy. It is the company. We're here to fight. We're here to fight not only for the people that are on this call, but for everybody. We represent every single flight attendant at Envoy, and we want to fight for you. But for that, we need volumes of participation. Strong people make strong leaders. So reach out to us because we will do better. The more support we have, the better we address the things that need to be made better. We're here for you. We're willing to stand stronger. And yes, as Abby wrote, stronger together, we're better together. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And for those of you that joined us on the previous calls, we'll make sure to post this on our YouTube page. So we have two MEC pages. One of those will be turned into a negotiations page. We're going to have this video posted on our YouTube channel. Find that information. You can find that information on the union website. And we also have an Instagram page that will be activated as well for those of you that are more active on YouTube than on Facebook. Thank you, everyone. You have a blessed day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
You want, Delma, do we,
Good job.
the negotiation team?
Yeah.